Welcome to my channel, Carmel Codes. In this tutorial, we're going to set up some authenticated routes. So I'm going to have a sign up and a login route, and I have a protected page called WebApp. So if I were to try to go directly to WebApp, it will redirect me to the login page. And then if I enter an actual user on the login page, it will navigate me back to WebApp where I can interact with this page. Right now, it doesn't have anything on it. This video is purely about authentication and setting all of that up. So this is going to use React Router DOM, Firebase, and hooks such as usehooks and some state hooks. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything, and let's get started. All right, y'all. So this is where we left off last time. And over here, I have the preview of the code over here, but I'm kind of cheating. I have my completed code behind here. So if you see this pop up from time to time, just know that this is the completed code of the one we saw in the beginning of this video. But I kind of want to build off of it before just like jumping straight. Okay, anyway. So here we are, and right now we only have SignUp Form and a hero, so we need a login page and a web app page. I'm just going to copy over my login form from my completed code. Yeah, I will link the code below so that you can go ahead and grab it. Ignore the errors for now, as we will get to that in a moment. Just kind of comment out everything, but this is very similar to the sign up form from last time, so I'm not really going to go into it. I'm just going to quickly kind of show it and set it up here. This is what my login form looks like. And then additionally, I need a web app page. I realized afterwards that probably a better way to organize our code would have been to use a pages folder so that we could have, you know, like a login page and then a sign up page, and then we could like include footers and all this other stuff. And then the components should have been like, I don't know, NavigationBar, footer, all the sort of like extraneous elements on a page. But you know, I think it's okay. And my web app page is very basic. All it says is hi in a header one. Okay, cool. So we have our login form and we have our web app. Feel free to style this, you know, however which way you want. And the next thing we're going to do is actually set up an authentication context. So here in index.js, I know that we have a Firebase context, and in our previous video, we were actually using the value of this Firebase context to call on Firebase directly, for example, here in this sign-in page. So we would just use context and then call firebase.auth. But what we're going to do in this video is actually refactor it so that we have an authentication context where we can keep track of the user and also store all of the helper functions associated that we might need within our app. So basically, where I'm getting this from is from this website called usehooks/useAuth, and they have this really in-depth example of how to use a useAuth hook. And I got this from the React Router website, and luckily for us, it shows an example with Firebase. However, this example is really long, which makes sense. It's not like a full app, and so we're just gonna kind of copy it and refactor it to fit it into our overall app. So over here, instead of initializing app in, you know, one giant file called useauth.js, we're actually going to keep it separated. So if we go back to index.js, we're going to keep our Firebase context, and then we're actually going to have within here a ProvideAuth, and then we're going to put app inside that. So in context, I'm going to make a new file called authcontext.js, and I'm actually going to copy everything pretty much from here down. Okay, so now that I've copied it over, I realized that, you know, like I said, we don't really want to initialize it here. Since that's a lot to do in one file, we're just going to delete this. And then I'm actually going to rename this to capital letters because I think it looks better. Something in my brain is just like, that shouldn't be camel case. And then lastly, I'm going to Actually, I'll do it down here. So as you can see, we have quite a few functions here. We have this ProvideAuth, which we're going to use in index.js, which is going to wrap our app. Okay, so that's what's happening here. This hook is going to be used in our other components, such as SignUp Form and Login Form. We're going to call useAuth, which as you can see is returning usehooks AuthContext. So what is AuthContext? Well, it is going to have a value of auth, which is from this hook called usePrivateAuth. So if we go down here to usePrivateAuth, what is happening here? It is setting up a user, which is going to keep track of the currently logged in user from Firebase. And then we have quite a few functions. We have sign in, sign up, sign out, and then some password stuff that we're not going to touch. And then we also have this useEffect hook, which is going to keep track of any sort of changes to our Firebase user. So, a lot going on here, but I do like the structure of this file. Our first error that we're seeing is that Firebase doesn't exist. So what we're going to do is actually import Firebase from the Firebase context. So const okay, and those errors went away, and as you can see, we now have access to Firebase. So that is what's happening in this file. I'm actually going to refactor this right now. This sign-in function, as you can see, it takes in an email and a password. I now prefer to use functions where you pass in an object instead. It's a very subtle difference because when it's written like this, how you would call it is like sign up, and then you could just pass in like email value, password value. And you just have to pass it in order. But if you pass in an object, then you can be really, explicit about like, okay, email is email value. Like for example, if email value in our sign up form were a different variable name and so on. And so this would be like password value. So I am going to actually make this an object. I'm also going to add a callback parameter. This is how we're going to use, I don't want to call the callback. This is how we're going to navigate in our app. So after we sign up, we're going to, or sign in, we're going to call the callback function, and that will navigate to another page. Okay, so here we are. I don't think I'm going to make any more changes to this file. I think we're done here. So then if we go back to index.js, yes, this is the right index.js, we're going to just call ProvideAuth. And you might be wondering, why don't we have to do ProvideAuth.Provider? Well, if we go back over here, you can see that ProvideAuth is actually returning AuthContext.Provider. So that's why. All right, so in our index.js, we have the Firebase context, we have the ProvideAuth context, which is going to wrap our application, keep track of everything. Cool. So what now? Let's go back to SignUp Form and actually see what this is going to be like in practice. So like I said, the child component is not going to use the context. It's actually going to use the useAuth hook. So then instead of calling on Firebase directly, what we're going to do is just auth.sign in, and then email, password, and for now I'm just going to make the callback function an anonymous function that doesn't do anything. So the reason why we don't have to put email here is because this is basically the same thing as just putting email, sort of a JavaScript shortcut. And I'm just going to clean up here. All right, so let's see what let's test this out. I'm gonna move my application over here, go to sign up. This is my current authentication state. So I'm gonna try c+2@gmail.com. Okay, so I clicked on sign up, refresh, and it didn't show up. Oh, I did sign in. My bad. Sign up. Okay. Okay, so I clicked on sign up. I'm going to refresh. And there it is, C+2. You know, it is weird that after we sign up, we're not going to navigate to anywhere. So let's set up our protected route with a web app inside it. Back in app.js, here are where our routes are with our components and so on. If we go back to reactrouter.com, there's actually an example under redirects auth where they provide a sample private route function. So I'm just going to copy this, and as the comment says on the website, a wrapper for route that redirects to the login screen if you're not yet authenticated. Copy. And I'm going to make a new folder called PrivateRoute. Import. Let's go to auto import or useAuth hook. It's looking good. I'm now going to import our login route specifically from our constants folder. Oh, I didn't add it yet. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. So web app is going to be our protected page. Make this a module. Okay, what else am I thinking here? Okay, so now that if we go back to app.js, we're going to use our private route file. I'm going to put it on the right-hand side here. And yeah, I'll put it down here. So private route, and then this component in particular takes in children. So instead of using the component prop, if there's a user, it's going to render children. So here I'm going to put in our web app page. It's not going to auto import. That's okay. I think it's actually pages now. Yeah, web app. So if we go back over here and directly just try to go to web app, it's going to take me to login. Oh, but we haven't made our login page yet. Okay, I'll direct it to sign up for now so that you know, our app doesn't keep breaking while we're testing this out. Plus, setting up the login should be very similar, so I'm not too worried. Okay. So yeah, let's try that again. If I go straight to web app, it should take me, if I can type web app, yeah, it takes me to sign up. Okay, so now let me think. So if we try to sign up now, it's not going to redirect to our web app. So right now our callback function that we're supposed to call is not going to do anything. So let's see if we can use the useHistory hook here, provided by React Router. So if we go over here, I hate that it's not letting me scroll. Like my wheel doesn't really work, so I usually have to use the scroll bar. Yes, use history. So this use history hook is what's going to allow us to push new routes. In our callback, let's do history.push. Oh, and history isn't defined yet. Okay. Web app. Okay. And history is going to be from the use history hook from React Router DOM. There we go, auto import. Okay, so if we sign up with our email and password, we should be able to go to web app, and because web app is protected, it will render the children after there is an auth.user. Oh, I see. So location here is only going to be in the state for the redirect. But if there is a user, then it's just going to render the children. It's not really going to care about what location it is. Okay, going back to our app, let's see if this works. What email haven't I used yet? Okay, sign up. And it took me to web app. Currently, we have no way of signing out or logging in, so that's probably the next thing I'm going to do now. But yeah, that's the authentication. We have it all hooked up. We have a private route and Firebase hooked in, and I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so last finishing touches are the sign out button and also a login page. So I'm just going to kind of whiz through it. So here in login form, I'm going to uncomment everything. Okay, so we have login, sign up, and home. Oh, that's interesting. So home will also be web app. I'm still kind of unclear on, as we're making changes, if the user saves. But I'm not going to worry about that for now. I don't know why sometimes the user stays and sometimes it... Now, why does it render web app instead of home when I go to home? I think the switch statement must be going down one at a time and being like, this private route will render. Hold on, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Also, I do have to pass in a path. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so now if I pass in a path, and let's see why that is. Okay, so right now we're just gonna pass in a route. So because we didn't pass in a path, it was just like, oh, it must be the home. But now that we passed in a path, it's going to say, okay, really only you should render that if it's /web app. And now the user is gone again, but okay. That makes more sense. So in our navigation bar, we only want to conditionally render the sign up and login if we're not logged in. And if we are logged in, then we want to put a sign out link. Okay, so let's use the useAuth hook once again. In the useAuth hook, I believe we're returning user. That's right. So here we always want to display home, and then we're going to put some conditional rendering here, where if we say if auth.user, then we don't want to display sign up and login, else we're going to return these two. Okay, so if we do have a user, we want to display a sign out link and also a web app link. So I'm going to say web app, and this is going to say in web app. Cool. And then finally, a link. Let's see how I did this in my other. Oh yeah, li. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and copy paste this for the sake of time. List element, and on click is just going to sign us out. So if I do sign out, it should probably re-navigate to homepage, but I guess if it navigates to login, I'm happy. So let's see if this works. If I do c+1@gmail, yeah, it'll take me to web app. All right, well, I think that's it for this video in terms of setting up authentication with Firebase and context and hooks and all this other stuff. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful. And yeah, I feel like I'm really learning a lot about authentication like as I'm making this, because, you know, I feel like as a software engineer, my job is usually so different than just like creating something on the fly and, you know, creating something from scratch. So yeah, I you know, glad to be making these videos. I hope you stay safe. I hope you and your family are well, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.